Hi, everyone. So we're talking to Alexis Walbaum today, and she is the manager of school sports programs for Special Olympics. So I'll start by asking you, what does that mean? What does the manager of school sports program do?
So funnily enough, I'm actually going to be changing my title pretty soon, but that is still my official title right now. I'm going to be switching over to the manager of youth programs and health. School programs definitely fit under that umbrella, but I do wear quite a few hats at Special O, so I'll just run through those. I'm the manager right now of school sports. So anyone under 21 who participates in one of our school programs, I run. In a normal year, I run sport events. So we do a lot of them at U of W in the Recplex. We do soccer, we do basketball in the gym, bocce. The only one we don't do at U of W actually is track and field, which you do through Grant Park High School. So normal year, that's what I'm doing most of the time. But because of COVID, we've made a shift. And before COVID, I was still in charge of our little ones youth program. So anybody under 12 participates in our Active Start and Fundamentals programs. So Active Start is basically working on motor skills, running, jumping, throwing, from ages 2 to 6. And then the Fundamentals program dives more into learning about specific sports. So you do soccer one week, you do baseball the next, sports that we offer, so that kids are kind of introduced to these at an early age, and they can start developing those skills, because we all know how important all of those are. So that's from 7 to, I think, 13. We've kind of, it used to be 12, but we kind of have raised that bar just so that everybody can kind of be included. It's a little bit daunting to join our adult programs as a 13-year-old. So we let those kids stick around if they are more comfortable in fundamentals for as long as they want, until they're more comfortable to move on to a specific sport. And then I'm in charge of everything health. So our Healthy Athletes program, we just got a grant called Healthy Communities that helps us sort of grow health in the province. Health hasn't been huge on our radar for a long time, but we're trying to, now with COVID and everything else that's going on, we're really pushing to include it more in our everyday curriculum, so people don't just look at us as a sport organization, but more as an overall wellness, advocate for people who have intellectual disabilities. Trying to think if I missed anything. That's about it. I wear a lot of hats. I do a lot of stuff, but it's lots of fun. It's a great job for sure.
Yeah, very rewarding, I'm sure. No, that's awesome. That's a great description. And it's funny because when I wrote down your title, I know that I talked to other members of your organization, and often their titles shift. So I should have asked you prior to the introduction. So how did you get where you are in terms of education? Where are you coming from? I mean, I know the answer because you were one of my students and worked for me for a while. Give everybody else a rundown.
So I have a bachelor in kinesiology. I graduated from U of W in 2018, which is crazy to think about that it's been 3 years since I graduated. I kind of just have, I know my program shifted a little bit. I'm not sure what it looks like now after I graduated. So the one I took had a wide range of classes. So I took adapted, it's not adapted anymore, is it?
It's inclusive physical activity.
Inclusive physical activity. So I took those. I took, teaching sports. I took anatomy. I took phys. Like I took all the heavy hitters and kind of got to cover a wide range of topics within kin. So it was an interesting, degree path. And that's my schooling wise.
Is it a 3-year degree or a 4-year degree?
Four.
Yeah. That's what we recommend.
Took me longer than that, but
almost everybody. And so how did you find the job at Special O?
Funnily enough, I actually started working for them before I graduated. So in my last term, I only had 2 classes, I think. So I was very part-time. I was only going on Tuesday and Thursdays. And I followed them on Twitter because I've been a coach since I was 15. So I'm all immersed in Special Olympics before I even worked there. And they had posted that they were looking for a sport program coordinator, someone to work a normal amount of time, but it was a term position. But I negotiated my way into letting me work Monday, Wednesday, Fridays. So I was going there Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and I was going back to university on Tuesday, Thursdays to finish off my courses. And then they loved me so much, they kept me on full time, which was awesome after I graduated. And then so I started as a program coordinator, and about 2 years ago, I took over as the manager of school sports, but still keeping those youth programs, bringing them with me from my previous position into now, because I think all of them go hand in hand. Anybody under 21 is my scope. So yeah, but it's been 3 years in March I have been employed at Special Olympics, which is crazy.
So I guess part of the message here is look and see what's available, even if it's an entry level or a volunteer position. Get into an organization and see if you love it and stick around if you can. That's great.
Yeah, it definitely helped knowing our CEO beforehand. I definitely knew a bunch of people in the office already, just because I have been around for so long. So it wasn't too hard to transition into an office role, because I had those friends on my side. I didn't really have to get to know anybody that well, because they all knew me, right? So yeah, it's been really rewarding, and we've got a really good staff that we all have the same sort of goal in mind, and it's been nice to work with such a fun group.
Excellent. What are some of the courses that you pull information from, or that have helped you?
I'm going to toot your horn here. Inclusive physical activity.
Question. Yeah. Don't toot my horn too much.
But yeah, no, I pulled a lot from that, because it's all applicable to the group of people that I work with. I mean, I use it in my everyday life as a coach, and use it in my job. Active Start and fundamentals is kind of where I'm trying to think of like more specific, like motor development. Garen taught that to me. Yeah, motor control. That's really helpful to we have guidebooks, but to even be able to improve on them and take a look from my side, and seeing how our athletes work, because I do know a lot of them. I definitely, in a normal year, I go and visit programs and get to know the families and the athletes. So to use my degree to sort of be able to help parents navigate, their child's motor control in general. I mean, before I worked for Special O, I worked at a kids gym, and we had one athlete. I didn't know he was involved in Special O, but he came to this gym, and he was nonverbal, and sweetest kid you've ever met. Whenever we'd do songs, he'd come and sit in my lap, and we would do our songs together, and he just liked to clap my hands for me. But so I ended up running into him at one of our fundamentals programs a couple years after I had left this gym, and he was talking now. It was incredible.
Amazing.
His mom was like, yeah, he learned these skills when we went to this kids gym, and now that he's participating in this, he's made friends, and he's done this, and he was talking to me, and I was like, I never expected this. Like, we had our own form of communication, right? Because I got to know him so well over those couple years that I worked at that kids gym. But yeah, it just brings tears to your eyes, because you're just so happy that these kids are able to take their time and be able to communicate in their own way. And yeah, he's my wonder kid. I always go visit. Well, when I could always go visit them to see them and chat those families up. So it's the connections you make, and it's the families you get to know, and hopefully he'll be a lifelong athlete and be able to grow in a sport.
Yeah, I hear those stories all the time about how rewarding it is. People that work with kids who are learning how to swim, or adults that are learning a new skill, or just the socialization and something that changed in their life. It's very rewarding that way.
Yeah.
What kind of personal qualities do you feel you bring to this career? So I imagine, and I say this with a little bit of experience that I have, is I'm not a very patient person, but I have to be patient in that type of environment. What about some other things?
That's number one, really. It's patience, and being able to be communicative in a multitude of ways, for sure. Starting off as a coach, I kind of learned that patience to begin with. So, I've learned how to deal with meltdowns in the proper way, through experience, through school as well. I mean, we talked about that in inclusive. I keep getting the name wrong, but your class. Yeah. But yeah, patience is key. And it's definitely not something nobody's born patient. We're all very impatient. I'm still an impatient driver, but yeah, patience is definitely, even working with adults, they all have their own quirks and their own ways of communicating. So you just kind of have to be patient in listening to them. And, there's a couple athletes that I coach personally who have trouble vocalizing just in general. But because I've known them for so long, I now can fully understand them. Like there's no, like I will be almost a translator. If someone who doesn't know, the couple athletes who either talk well, like they're whispering, or they're, it's hard to pronounce some words for them, but you kind of build this, it's the relationships. You have to build relationships, and you have to know how to communicate, and how to sort of read people too. That's, I find, really important, because I'm just going to keep going back to my coaching. It's all tied in, but I was talking to someone else and I was like, yeah, some days you walked in, I'm a curling coach for context, you'd walk into the rink and you'd feel that everybody was on edge, like you can just feel that, okay, so we're going to keep person A and person B far apart, because when they're both in moods like this, that's going to explode. And you only know how to do that through getting to know them on a personal level. So that's like a really important part of working with people with intellectual disabilities, is building that trust and that connection with them, so they know who you are, and that they can rely on you to, make them feel safe if they don't.
Oh, that's a great answer. Yeah, I imagine. Did that come easy to you? Like I know that a lot of students are hesitant to work with people who have challenges with communication. Their students are worried that they're going to say something wrong or do something that's going to trigger some behavior or something like that.
Kind of. Yeah, I mean, patience doesn't come easy to anybody, but it did. I have a cousin with autism, so I've grown up with him, and he's one of my best buddies, and we he has trouble getting sentences out in a timely manner. Like he has a bunch of pauses in his sentence, and I've noticed that within my family, people who don't necessarily understand autism will, cut him off and finish his sentence for him. So I've always grown with, we wait 5 minutes and he gets the sentence out eventually. Like he just wants to be heard, right? So I definitely grew up with him, and I worked as his respite worker for a bit. And I started with Special O when I was 14. Like as soon as I could kind of get in there, my mom signed the permission form and I was on the ice.
Wow.
Because curling's my favorite sport, and to be able to teach people how to do it's always been how I like to sort of share curling with everybody. And I've had the same athletes for the last 15 years or whatever it is at this point. But yeah, so it didn't come easy, but I definitely had a little bit of a cheat. I had a little bit of an advantage in introducing myself to all these people, for sure.
I think learning that when you're 14, and my experience in school was when I was 14, we didn't have exposure to anybody that had a different ability. And so we have that exposure a little bit differently now. There's lots of integrated programs in classrooms. So that's better. But even just choosing to immerse yourself in that population at that age is a huge skill. That's awesome.
Yeah, and I can't lie, it was terrifying. It was really scary because everybody is older than me, and I just kind of wanted to be there to help. So I did play a very minor role for a long time now, but I'm a co-head coach now, so I've definitely worked my way up the ladder. And you have to learn also to communicate with their families as well, because all those families are there defending. They've lived their entire lives defending their children to everyone, fighting for them in schools to get the proper education, fighting for them to get proper healthcare. So you don't want to be another obstacle. Obviously, I'm just a volunteer, but you have to build that trust with the athlete and with their family as well. And those families have taught me a lot of patience as well. You gotta be patient with those guys sometimes, but they're great. I have a great group of in case this gets out, they're all great. Love you all, but
yeah, no, we all have challenges with communication with people in our lives, for sure. What's a day in the life like for you? So we won't talk about pandemic day in the life. That's the next.
Okay.
But what's regular day in the life?
Regular day in the life could be any number of meetings. I do talk to people from a lot of different organizations. A lot of our grants come from Special Olympics International, so we have contacts there that I talk with. Special Olympics Canada gives us grants, so I talk to them, and they sort of develop a lot of our stuff. So it's communication between all those groups, between me and my coworkers, because we are pretty small. There's 12 of us in the office, so it's a pretty small team. And we all kind of share the load. And but yeah, normal day in the life, I would get to the office, Sport Manitoba and settle down into my desk and kind of get the admin stuff out of the way in the morning. That's, our budgets, our any paperwork, any invoices that need to be done, and then sort of move on to most meetings happen in the afternoon. That hasn't changed, but meetings, sort of organizing, events was a big part of my job. So I'd have 4 events throughout the year, not including some of our smaller unified events. So September was soccer, February was basketball, March was bocce, and May was track and field. Surprised I remember that, but yeah, so it'd be, getting those registration forms out, filling out different groups so teams could play against each other, like a schedule. That's the word I'm looking for. Sort of developing those. I mean, it does take a couple weeks, and you have enough time to sort of in between those events be able to work on that. Finding new schools, new groups of students to join us. Schools can have one athlete and be, grouped with another school. We've had a lot of Linden Christian not Linden Christian. Springs Christian is one of the schools. They have 2 athletes that come all the time that get grouped with another school, and it's fun for those kids to be able to play together and participate. Even though they are just 2 of them, they can't really participate in the team sports by themselves, but there is always a way around that. It gives them the chance to meet kids from new schools. I tend to mix up which schools they get paired with all the time, so that they're able to meet more and more people. Planning healthy athletes events was also big. They happen normally, in a normal year, they would happen at any big event that Special Olympics is running all together. So we have a couple disciplines. Our biggest 2 are health promotion and fun fitness. So health promotion, we have a dietitian, and Christine is an athletic therapist. They are our registered clinical directors, and then fun fitness are physiotherapists. So definitely they're volunteer positions, but when they were trained, they were sent to Arizona, Minneapolis, somewhere in the States to get training, fully paid for by us, so that we could have them and their expertise sort of run stations that give athletes access to healthcare from people who know them, who understand them, who are able to communicate with them, because some do have we've been talking a lot about health advocacy. As of late, we have an athlete who just gave a presentation to a group of people about how they should be talking, these people with intellectual disabilities should be talking to their doctors and, asking for things that they need and telling them what they want and how they feel they should be treated, which I think is awesome. And I think is really important for people with intellectual disabilities to be advocating for. So those, before COVID, the plan was to start turning them into smaller events that teams could come out to a community center, maybe have like a hot dog or something, like make a day of it and get a screening done. We have a program that, gives you a full dental exam, a program that will give you new glasses. So it's all sort of set up for these athletes to be able to increase their health all around. So that's been a push now. We've sort of switched it to online seminars. We've been starting off with health promotion. So our dietitian and our AT will come on, and we have one a month, and the last one was hydration, and they'll talk about, you're having 5 glasses of water a day, but is it, this size, and sort of educating the athletes on that piece. Because it is important, and it isn't something that they've learned prior to, taking stuff like this, right? Where are they going to get that information from? So that's a normal day in the life, COVID wise, a lot of event planning, a lot of budgeting.
So
long-winded answer.
No, it makes sense. So there's admin stuff, but there's lots of organization, the school programs for competitions, and then the healthy athlete. And the healthy athlete, I think, is just a really interesting to have healthcare professionals at an event, so that the athletes who may not normally see a physio or an OT or whoever else has access to one, and they can chat and learn from them. So that's phenomenal. And then
just, for people who are interested in that, if you have a degree in kinesiology, you can become a health promotion clinical director. You can get trained. And right now they're doing it all online, so it's a little bit easier. You don't have to travel, but once you become certified, anyone in Canada can call you to go, and they'll pay for you, like fly in you to work at their event. Our eye doctor, she goes all over the place because she's one of like 5. We don't have a lot of eye doctors trained, but Irene is awesome, and she was at Winter Games with us last year. She went to Montreal right before the pandemic hit. So it's a really cool opportunity that I think more people should get involved with, because the more hands we have, the easier it'll be to get that information to our athletes.
For sure.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. And then pandemic wise, obviously we were chatting before, you're working from home. The office is typically not a place where people are gathering right now, and all the programs have been canceled since March. So you have some online programming that happens.
Yeah. So our office has kind of been open to us. I was telling you before, if you have something to mail or have something that's dropped off for you there, I can definitely go pick it up, but it is sort of discouraged. So I have been working from my kitchen table since March. It's been quite interesting. A lot of Zoom calls, a lot of Teams meetings, but yeah, our virtual programming right now, we're doing something called the Spirit Series. So every week, each night has its own different event. So Monday nights we do a workout, Tuesdays are yoga, Wednesdays are Zumba, and it kind of goes on to from there. So that's been really fun. Health has been sort of included in those health seminars that I had mentioned. We're going to be talking to our other clinical directors to try and get them involved, because we did just start. Health promotion is such a wide topic that there's never not something to talk about. So we've had 4 of them, no problem, like never scratching our brains to try and find a topic. So when you get a little bit more concise into something like dentistry, you can only talk about teeth for so long. You can only talk about brushing for so long, right? So yeah, we're going to be trying and incorporating them in our second. We're going to be calling it the Flex Series to go along with our new website that has all of our virtual stuff on it. So yeah, I'll send that to you, because there's definitely volunteer opportunities as well if any of your students are interested. But yeah, so I'm making a little bit more of a shift towards fitness. So I've been working with 2 also recent grads, Brian and Gabe. They've put together a really awesome workout program that's level 1, level 2, level 3, kind of depending on where the athlete is fitness wise, and letting them sort of progressively overload into, working up their fitness levels. And we're going to turn that into a series, and they're going to be instructing classes, because they're both personal trainers at the moment. So really excited to get them involved. Wouldn't have got to know them if I wasn't in classes with them at UW. So they're really fun to work with. We're going to be bringing in a mental health component, stretching, flexibility, nutrition, stuff that our athletes don't normally have access to. So really excited to get that started. It's going to be happening in May. Our youth programs are going to be basically just going to, we're trying to make our own videos so that our athletes are able to follow along with them at home, because it has been a little difficult to sort of gather them, just because the families are, from all walks of life, and they're a little bit harder to get a hold of, definitely when they're trying to deal with younger children with intellectual disabilities. So we're trying to get a grasp on that. But yeah, that's the gist of our virtual programming at the moment, and hopefully it'll stick around once we are able to get back to in person, because it has been awesome to bring in people who live outside of Winnipeg. We have athletes from Russell, from Thompson, from all over the place who are Hamiota. I have a school that participates. So it's been a good way. It's probably the only good thing for us that's come out of COVID, but a good way to get with schools that normally wouldn't be able to come into Winnipeg for an event, or athletes that, live very far away and can't come into Winnipeg, where most of our bigger events are held.
I would say that the COVID and virtual learning and teaching has become one of the benefits in terms of accessibility for more people.
Totally.
So, more people. So, and I would say the same thing with the academic side of things. So awesome. So I am going to leave the last word for you. Is there anything else that we didn't touch in? I know I have my list of questions, and there's a couple here, but I feel like you've answered most of them. You've talked about the best things being, a lot of the people and the relationships and the rewarding. I'm not going to even ask you what the worst thing about your job is.
Nothing. There's nothing.
working from home and not seeing anyone.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anything else you want to add? Is there a few
The only,
other students to follow in your footsteps?
not at the moment. You can't take my job just yet, but definitely when we are hiring people, look for us, look at other, nonprofits, because all I really needed was a sport background. So it didn't really matter what I had majored in within kinesiology. If I had, specified sport coaching, that would have been, it was more just a general knowledge of kinesiology in general was the requirement to kind of get this job. So as soon as I got my degree, they were like, yeah, you're on board, you're fully on board. So yeah, there's lots of different things you can do with this degree that I think a lot of people are, the focus is on physiotherapy, on occupational therapy, but there are rewarding careers outside of those fields for sure. The only thing that, I was not prepared for was budgeting, but that's just because I'm really bad at math. So yeah, be prepared if you work for a non-for-profit to be in charge of your own budgets. I've definitely grown my skills, my Excel skills over the last 3 years that I've been working there. But big thanks to all my coworkers for, this budget is terrible, you should work on this, for giving me those that tough love. But yeah, I think I kind of covered everything. Definitely volunteer with us, please. We would love to have as many volunteers as we can. The virtual programming I know seems kind of redundant, almost like, why am I there if I'm not actually with anybody? But the connections that a lot of our virtual volunteers have made have been really lasting, and the athletes are always really excited to see them on the workouts and participating in all that stuff. And there's definitely conversations that you can still have. We've been working on doing, social hours, game nights, just making sure that our athletes are staying in contact with each other, because we do have an aging coaching population for sure. A lot of our longtime coaches have been around for 30 plus years. So we got a lot of lifers. Once you start, you don't stop. I mean, look at me, I've been around for 15 years. So yeah, definitely I could not recommend enough to join us post COVID. Definitely come back, because we will be looking for volunteers. We are running a return to play fundraising opportunity right now. Our polar plunge is happening right now, a virtual polar plunge. I'll give Andrea all the info so you guys can take a look at all the stuff we're doing to raise that money to make sure that our athletes are able to go back. We don't know how funds are going to be distributed when everything is back to normal, or how much more venues are going to cost to rent for these athletes. Like, as a curling coach, I'm, personally worried, because I know how expensive curling ice is. So to be able to afford that, to make sure athletes don't skip a beat once they are all vaccinated and ready to get back on the ice, we're working hard to make sure that's a reality, and we're doing a good job of it. But we can always use more help. $5, anything, your time. We'd love any and all of it. That's our fundraising staff would be mad at me if I didn't include that,
It's always part of every nonprofit, and we recognize that. But I just want to thank you so much for your time. It's been really eye-opening for a lot of people, just to know who's in charge out there, and what they're doing, what they're running, and what they're doing with their degree. So I appreciate it. Thanks very much.
No problem.